All right, good afternoon. I hope everyone's having a great day. This is the last day of my summer vacation, so I had to come in before I start working officially again tomorrow. So I appreciate your time. I'm going to go ahead and start my presentation. Okay. And so today I will be talking about a program that we started here at my place of business, UNCW, a few months ago. And we started it in collaboration with our early college at my school. And this is a beta program I'll be talking about that we launched at the end of spring 2024. So we'll be retooling it over the summer for the fall and a relaunch. And there aren't a lot of people here today. So if you want to stop me at any time, just let me know because I do have a script, but I can veer off that at any time. So I'll start a little bit about me. My name is Jason Fleming. My official title is Information Technology Librarian at UNCW. I have been working here at this university for 11 years, in libraries, almost 25 years. For the last 5, though, I've been working with the Makerspace here, and first as a consultant, and then as the general supervisor for staff and students, and then as we've added staff and services and equipment, and now new spaces. So been here since the beginning. So I just wanted to give you an agenda so you see what we're going to be talking about today. And I hope this order makes the most sense for you. But if you ever feel like I needed to answer a question about a particular slide that to make things make sense, just let me know and I'll stop and keep going from there. So just a little about our Makerspace, our early college, and you'll hear me talk about the early college interchangeably as high schoolers or early college. And then about our student worker-based projects in general and how we've engaged stakeholders or partners. And then about this program in particular, how we constructed that message and then really got it started. Right, a little about our makerspace. For about 4 or 5 years, we've been in a glass box in the middle of the library, and we were known as the digital makerspace. Over time, we added an office space to turn into audio software classroom, but we really outgrew our space over the last couple of years. And so when we got money from the state for an expansion of the library, we advocated for and got a large section of that space in the new library expansion. So just this summer, we've opened up that expansion and we've been using this entire summer, making sure everything makes sense, buying new equipment, adding services, getting everything ready for our opening in just a few weeks. And so we'll be moving into 3 new rooms in that space, and they have been designed for our use. So hopefully that is going to be great for us. So in this space, we offer training and consultations on a variety of services that we offer, much like other maker spaces, from 3D printing and laser cutting all the way to sewing and embroidery. And if you have any questions about particular services, let me know. But a lot of the basic stuff and some new stuff that we've added now that we have new space. And then a little about our early college. They've been associated with our university for a long time. I'm sorry, I don't know exactly how long. They have a strong connection with the university, and the library plays a pivotal role in creating connections with students. High school students view the library as a favorable after-school destination, and they visit us annually during campus tours. And then as juniors and seniors, our program works that they start taking classes at the university and they use the library as much as any other university student. And so they can come to the library between classes to use our services whenever they need to. Um, I have a particular connection with Isaac Bear Early College because my son is actually a junior and going to be a senior this year. So I think that has really helped a lot. We do have a liaison, which I'll talk about, on our staff to the early college. But having a student actually there, I judged their science fair this year and have participated in other ways as well. So that's really helped give me insight so that I can actually make this program a success. Okay, I want to start with defining our goal, and you'll see this carries through in a lot of what we did and how we've responded to different things is having this school statement. So we have this opportunity with these high school students. So they can take our trainings that we offer at the library, and that's going to do two things for us. It's both going to give them experience with what we offer at our makerspace, and it's going to get them used to coming in and using the library. They do, like I said, have tours where they come in and see what we have and we show them, but then if they actually are using our services and learning how to use the equipment, that just makes those bonds stronger. So that's kind of our goal statement for what we're trying to accomplish with this program. Okay, our student workers in general, we have, I think 10 students this last semester. They had several projects they could lead or participate in over the spring semester. And so just a few of those were, I think one group was supposed to create a tabletop game, and one was to start a podcast. And another group programmed a Raspberry Pi as a room announcer so that anytime someone comes in, it beeps to alert staff that someone has entered the space. So some projects that we hoped would be doable in the course of a semester. So that's a separate program that we're trying to keep retooling and get started. But this came out of it, this Isaac Bear Early College training program. And so the makeup of this program is the student worker, so a UNCW student who works for us as the lead, and then me as the mentor to keep things moving along. And then two high school students, juniors, one of them being my son and another his best friend. But they had been coming in and doing training, but not in a formal way. And they had started volunteering for a student organization that we sponsor, which is creating prosthetics for just people who need them through the Helping Hands project. And so here are some of the accomplishments from our group this semester, or how we managed the group. One thing that really helped us actually complete our project this semester was making sure we had a weekly meeting time that worked for everyone, where we talked about what had been accomplished so far for the week and what needed to be accomplished independently for the next week. So homework was assigned to everyone to accomplish, and then just keep going, like, what do we need to do, and with that end goal in sight at all times. And then part of my tasks were setting up meetings with our stakeholders and communicating with library administrators, researching the rules and regulations that we needed to abide by, and then finding opportunities for marketing, just keeping my ear out and just keeping things going. Setting up the actual meeting request for everyone to get a reminder that we're meeting on Fridays. And then our student worker made a draft of a flyer for us, and that was instrumental in getting that rolling. Like, this is what we're looking for in a flyer, and you'll see what that ended up looking like. They also made some draft content for a website that we wanted to point these early college students to from the flyer. So we devised this way to go from they're getting a email from their coordinator, and that email has the flyer, and both the email and the flyer have a link to the website. And then the website has the link to where they can actually sign up for training. I worked on the actual logistics and set up this reservation system, which ended up being a lot of the work. You'll see. Working with Makerspace staff to make sure the training is ready and they're aware of what we are setting up and they're ready to help make it happen. So they're not surprised when people start being booked on their calendar to show them how to use a 3D printer. And then our high school students were invaluable here as they reserved training and went through the training before we launched our program. And they were able to give us feedback before we did our general launch of the program. Okay, and then our stakeholders were our librarian, who is the liaison for the education department, which includes the early college. And they've always been a great partner for us, helping us with anytime a high school, middle school comes and does an orientation with us. So we had a good rapport with this librarian. And then the coordinator, so a UNCW employee, but out of the education department, who works directly for and with early college students. So she knows all of them, has communication channels to them, and is able to help guide us in terms of what we need to follow and for rules and regulations. And then library administrators, so they never want to be surprised about anything. So making sure that they are at all steps knowledgeable about what we're intending to do and then when we're actually doing it, and then giving them stories to share with our partners and greater sense as far as the university goes. Always looking for a good story. And then our Makerspace staff, right? We have our Makerspace coordinator and our Makerspace technical assistant and our student workers. So they are helping us at all points, but in a peripheral sort of way so that they're not bogged down with our day-to-day trying to get this project up and running. But so for the going back to the group projects, this Makerspace staff each are mentors on different student projects. I was a mentor on 3 altogether. And so we met once every other week just to give updates on how we're doing with our projects. And then for marketing, we had a flyer, like I said, that was created by the student. And then we took that to our digital and visual media coordinator, who worked up something different. And then we responded to that. And so there was some back and forth before we agreed on what should be on the flyer. And we also worked with the library administrator to make sure they felt we were capturing the right message in that flyer as well. And then I'll talk about how this opportunity happened before, but we were able to table at some events that the students were coming in to not in the library, but somewhere else on campus so that we could share what we were working on. And then, like I said, emails were sent to the students once the program was up and running. And that's when they just started signing up for training opportunities as soon as they saw that email. Okay, and this is I think this is the final version. So it's not giving them too much content. It's just trying to say this is a great way to earn hours. And so this isn't something I've talked about yet at this point, but they need to accumulate 200 hours where they're doing things outside of their schoolwork that are beneficial to them and the community. And so we have worked with their coordinator to verify that this counts towards those hours. And so it's not a lot, like they need 200 hours, so maybe someone gets 5 hours, but this is one of those opportunities. So it was something that they didn't just go, oh, I could learn 3D printing, that's great, but they're also getting these hours that they need. And then with that comes forms. They have their own form that's just we have to sign off saying that they are working with us and um, they're not just making up these hours. Then we have to log what hours, or they have to log these hours. So come up with a system where it's like a file folder and they take out their log and mark out how many hours that they put in that day. And then we spent a lot of time going over whether this was a volunteer program versus a training program, and it's just means different things to different groups on campus. And so we made a decision to make this more of a training program. So it's not a volunteer program, meaning like you work 5 hours a week for the Makerspace to do these things. Instead, it's you decide which hours you want to spend learning things, and it doesn't require the same kind of paperwork from the university. Okay, and then I'm going to talk about coordinating these opportunities. So that's how we tell them what's available and then give them a way to sign up for these opportunities, and then how we know that they've signed up so that we can be ready to provide the training, and then how we can record those statistics and give them a way to give us feedback. So all those fun parts about reservation systems. And then, so we had going to describe two different ways that we set things up. And this is where a lot of the work came from. Like I set up everything in LibCal and really learned LibCal because that was the new way that we're doing reservations and appointments for liaisons. And it looks like it works better for liaisons to set up these one-on-one sessions with individual students and faculty needing research help, because it's made a little bit more for individual appointments. But I did work hard to set it up so that it could be set up this way. But it was a little complicated. And in the end, I just ran into a hurdle I just couldn't get past without doing some work with the API. And I was not given the time I needed with a developer, like to get that sorted out. So that's one of the things that we might look at before we launch it again in the fall is if we can get that working. It's mostly how do you reserve, and some of this might not make as much sense with in our new space, but it was how to reserve a space and a person at the same time to provide that opportunity. So we ended up going with Windows bookings, and a lot of the reason is because we had been using Windows bookings for the last 5 years to set up consultations. So we were familiar with that and we could easily make a calendar, and it has that integration with Microsoft Outlook, and we're a Microsoft Outlook school, so that made more sense for us. And we could really define those available hours, like student one is available Fridays, and match that up with their work schedules. One of the problems being that their work schedules sometimes vary when they call out and someone covers their shift. And so the answer to that is just for one of the staff to always look at the calendar and to make that, oh, you're working for Joe. Joe was signed up to give this training, so you'll be giving this training for the student that's coming in today. So not as fluid and efficient and automatic as we would like. Uh, so there's a lot to learn from there. One good thing that I found from there is that I could set up these notification emails easy, so they were notified ahead of time that, oh, in 1 hour you have this training. Because there were some times where they signed up for something and then didn't show up because they only got that initial email when they reserved it 2 weeks ago. And then you can set up emails to say, take this survey now that you've had the class. And I hope that went well for you. So learned a lot about bookings doing this and learned a lot from the interaction that the students had with the booking service. And so this is what it looked like for the students, is that they saw how long it was going to be. If they click on the eye, it gives them a snapshot of what the service is like, what we expect that they'll learn from it, and yeah, give them you can sign up for it. One of the things we made sure was that they couldn't sign up for a particular person, like they know Joe is great and they want to sign up for only classes that they can teach. So we made it anonymous. So you're just signing up for a time and an opportunity, and then it places you with whoever's available at that time. Oh, sorry, I just see in the chat. Oh, yeah. Now I love Windows bookings too. It's like we just bought all things lib apps, and so trying to move everything over there, we haven't lost bookings. So it's like could still use bookings, but there's kind of some pressure about moving forward and consolidating services. But I work in IT, so I do have some flexibility about what I can use. Right. Final tips and takeaways. Sorry about my time. I'm just saying that I'm at a closer to a half-hour mark than the 50-hour mark. Uh, but we can talk more in the question and answer at the end. But final tips. I wanted to be able to launch a simple way for these early college students to be able to sign up for training by the end of the semester and have the program, sorry, admitting someone, have the program run long enough to give us some useful data so that we could launch then in the fall. This beta program status took away some of the pressure from the launch. So people weren't looking at like, this is your final product and it's no good kind of thing. Like, no, well, we're going to retool and do what's necessary to make it a success going forward. And as I said previously, the group met often and consistently. And I feel like that was one of the big reasons why this project succeeded. And maybe some of the others were not able to accomplish their goals because we just met no matter what every Friday. I mentioned previously that we decided to change this program from a volunteer program to a training program so that we can make everything simpler and maybe avoid some problematic discussions. I'm advocating for you to adjust your goals in any kind of setting up a similar program. So just those goals as necessary when it looks like a program that you are invested in, what it might not be able to move forward as you originally intended, but maybe there's a way you can continue in a form that still meets your original goals. And like our original goals provide a way for the students to get training and earn hours, and that's what we did. Then one of our stakeholders told me about a tabling opportunity. Like I mentioned, we went to the computer science department. So we had very short notice. So we were able to put together in just a few days the resources and people we needed to make that happen. So I just encourage you to watch for opportunities and seize them to increase exposure to your target audience. Yeah, just I'm a strong advocate for doing what you need to do to make that happen, even you feel like maybe you needed for most things like several weeks or a month to get prepared and have it on your calendar. But sometimes you can do things in the spur of the moment and make it happen just because that's when you find out it is. Uh, and your goal statement, I think, should be your touchstone that you can use to guide you. But it's important that you make it simple enough that you can modify things as needed. So I just was very simple set of things that I wanted to accomplish. Um, and so we were able to do those, and we didn't have some multi-page statement going into this. These are student projects that we wanted to give them experience leading a project and being successful and coming away with experience and maybe even something to put on their resume. Like I was able to make this happen. And then if something isn't working at first, make a change and try it again. I think we all know that. So here's some of our numbers. You can see that they're pretty low, but this really was just a few weeks at the end of the semester. So we weren't necessarily expecting a lot in terms of these numbers. We did have different amounts of times. Like I would rather everything was 1 hour, but that's just not possible. And then our future goals. So those were takeaways earlier of this program that we have had. Future goals, though, are we've been working all summer on this Canvas module that's more asynchronous training, and that's going to be for our UNCW staff, faculty, students, but going to take advantage of that, I think, for our early college program. So some of it's a lot of get to know the 3D printer and some basics and watch videos and get some things out of the way so that then you can come in and do some maybe hands-on training or show us that you learned enough from this asynchronous training. So that'll make a lot of our scheduling easier. Like we could assign times, and so looking forward to having that be beneficial to all our users. And then we plan on making signups for groups instead of individual sections. I'm going to try this out. So freshmen and sophomores, they have their Friday afternoons free to do things like this around the community. A lot of them just end up coming to the library and spending 4 hours and waiting for their parents to pick them up. So it's a great time for them to take advantage of this. And so we'll have groups where they can sign up in groups of 4 to 6, depending on the activity. And we're hoping that this will take care of some of the what we're hearing about from the state and the university concerning working with minors. We didn't have a problem at all in our previous space because it's a giant box and there's like 3 or 4 of us at all times. And even if we're working with 3 different students doing individual training, we can all see each other. And but this working with groups in our space will just make that more clear that we're no one's being left alone with a staff member and a minor. And just so we can be in clear that we're in compliance, we just want to go this extra mile. And we had intended, if you remember on the flyer, it said something about extra hours after this like 1 hour training. And so we wanted to make this additional level where we can give them extra work so they can earn, no, hours independently, so they could take the knowledge they've learned and then do an independent project within defined guidelines. So we want to look at getting that going. So like you have taken crafting and 3D printing and electronics and sewing. So maybe log hours for 4 to 6 hours where you make a wearable. So that kind of thing. So that's my real goal for this next year is to work on that next iteration where they can do this independent project. And that is what I have. Thank you. Uh, There's my contact information, but it's also on the slide. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me talk. And if you have any questions, I would love to answer them for you.